Assalamu alaikum students. So our today's topic is angle of elevation. Angle of elevation is an angle formed from the horizontal line of sight when you stand straight and when you just look straight horizontally, that line, and when your head is elevated up to see something above on top. Okay, that's the angle which is formed from the horizontal side straight line and when your head is elevated up. This is the angle of elevation. This is the line of sight to the object. If you want to look at this object up, okay, and this is the horizontal when you stand straight and you look straight. So this is the angle of elevation. Okay, it's formed by an observer's line of sight and a horizontal line. So when an observer look at something and the horizontal line. Okay, so in this question, Casey sights the top of an 84-foot tall lighthouse. This is the lighthouse. This is Casey. He wants to look something on the lighthouse, which is 84 feet tall, at an angle of elevation of 58 degrees. When we say angle of elevation, means the angle from the straight horizontal line where he's standing to the top. This is angle of elevation 58 degrees. If Casey is 6 feet tall, this is 6 feet tall, how far is he standing from the base of the lighthouse? So how far is he standing? So we need to find this distance, which is exactly the same as this distance. Okay, now you can see a right triangle. This is 90 degrees. Let's find out, in this triangle we have to find this length, so let's name this as x. Okay, now we know that this height would be, if this lighthouse is 84 feet tall and this person is 6 feet, this would be 84 minus 6, which is 78 feet. Now we can use SOHCAHTOA to find the missing side. As we know the two unknown side and one side, we know the angle. Regarding to this angle, this is the opposite and this side is the adjacent. So I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA for opposite and adjacent. I'm going to use tangent ratio. So I'm going to use tangent of 58 degrees equals to opposite over adjacent, which is 78 over x. To find x, I'm going to multiply both sides by x. I get x of tangent 58 degrees equals 78. Divide both sides by tangent 58. I get x equals to, use your calculator and you will find out that x is equals to 48.7 feet. So only new thing today is angle of elevation. Now they're gonna use, the angle of elevation they're gonna use on the real world situations. So when you look up something, that's angle of elevation. Okay, I'm going to do one more question here. A dog is standing 5 feet from the base of a tree. So if this is sorry, the dog is here. Guys, don't laugh on my dog. 5 feet from the base of the tree. So this distance, and now please keep in mind the tree and the ground makes 90 degrees. So this distance is 5 feet. Looking up at a cat. Now here is a cat. Okay, that has climbed 16 feet up the tree. So suppose this is 16 feet. So this length is 16 feet. What is the angle of elevation from the point? Now when I say angle of elevation, it is going to be, the dog is here. So this is, and this angle of elevation they're asking you. Okay, I know the two sides with this angle, adjacent and opposite. I'm gonna use tangent ratio. I need to find x angle, so I'm gonna write tangent of x equals opposite over adjacent. I'm going to find x equals, when I'm finding the angle, I take the inverse tangent raised to the power -1, we call it as tangent inverse, 16 over 5. I get x equals 72.6 degrees. So the angle formed by the dog to look at the cat is 72.6 degrees. Okay, now my next topic is angle of depression. As angle of elevation is something you look up as angle of elevation. For angle of depression, if you look something down, that is angle of depression. Now, one main thing we need to remember for angle of depression is when you're looking down to an object, that is the angle of depression, and it is formed by an observer's line of sight and horizontal line. Now, one basic mistake we do is when you look down to something, now this is the lifeguard watching a swimmer here, the angle of depression is formed from the horizontal line of sight. So this is the horizontal when you look straight this, and the line of sight which goes to the object here. So the angle of depression is this one. This angle is not the angle of depression. No, this is not the angle of depression. Okay, the angle formed from the horizontal line, whenever the guy is sitting, draw a horizontal line. From that horizontal to the line of sight is the angle of depression. Now, this angle of depression is congruent to this angle of elevation. It will be the same as if this swimmer looks up to that guy. So if this is 38 degrees, this will be also 38 degrees. Because you see the two parallel lines? This is the transversal. These are the alternate interior angles. Okay? So for the swimmer looking up to that lifeguard will be the same as the lifeguard looking down to that swimmer. Okay, these are really important situations, really real world life. Okay, now in this question, the first one, a lifeguard is sitting on a platform. So lifeguard is sitting here. This is a lifeguard sitting here, looking down at a swimmer in the water. Now if this is the water, the swimmer is here. Okay, if the lifeguard's line of sight is 18 feet above the ground, 8 feet. So if the lifeguard's line of sight, this is the straight line you can see. This is 8 feet above the ground. And the angle of depression to the swimmer, and our swimmer is not inside. If he is inside, he cannot see that swimmer. He is on the level, ground level, right? Above the ground. The angle of depression to the swimmer is 18 degrees. So when he looks down to this swimmer, the angle of depression is not this. The angle of depression is from the horizontal line up here. This is angle of depression, which is 18 degrees. Angle of depression and the angle of elevation are from the horizontal, not from the vertical line. Okay? So this is 18 degrees. How far is the swimmer from the lifeguard? How far is the swimmer from the lifeguard? So this, we are not talking about this distance. This is not the distance we calculate. This is the distance. Okay, so we need to find x. Now, as I told you, these are parallel lines. Whatever is this angle is the same, because I want to make a right triangle, and this is 90 degrees. Okay, so with this angle opposite and this is adjacent, I'm gonna use SOHCAHTOA. Tangent of 18 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent, meaning 8 over x. Cross multiply, I get x equals to 8 over tangent 18 degrees. So I get x equals 24.6 feet. So the distance between the observer of the swimmer and the is this. I'm going to do one more question, which is question number 7. These are really fun questions if you understand the concept of angle of depression and angle of elevation. Building A is 480 feet tall and building B is 654 feet tall. So there are two buildings, A and B. This is A and this is B. because it's taller, it's going to be taller B. Okay, this is 480 and this is feet and this is 654 feet. Oops. If the angle of depression from the top of building B to the top of building A, means depression means someone is looking down, depressed, getting down. Okay, so if someone is looking from here to this part, the angle formed is 42. Now this is not the angle formed. I told you angle of depression is from the horizontal line, so you will draw a horizontal line there. This angle is 42 degrees. Okay, how far apart are the buildings? So we are going to find out this distance. How far apart are these buildings? Okay, as I told you, angle of depression is equal to the angle of elevation. So this is, if this is 42, because you can see other ways, parallel lines, transversal, this is 42 degrees. I know this is 90 degrees. How far are these two buildings? I'm gonna use okay, and now this is 480, this tall is 654, so this distance would be 654 minus 480, which is 174. Okay, so this length is 174. So angle opposite and adjacent, I'm going to use again tangent of 42 degrees, opposite over adjacent, find x. I get x equals 174 over tangent 42 degrees. I get x equals 193.2 feet. Okay, so the buildings are 193.2 feet apart. I hope you understand the question. Please keep in mind, angle of depression is not this angle, it is the angle formed from the horizontal line, from top, from the straight line when you look down. Okay, I hope you understand the concept. Assalamu alaikum.